Brings us to just coming up to 8:20. This was the acoustic at the old Notre-Dame Cathedral in Paris before it burnt down in 2019. There we are, the 850th anniversary concert. It was back in 2013 that concert was held. The cathedral is being rebuilt. In fact, it's been pretty much rebuilt and is going to be opened next year to worshippers and to the public. But it was not just the look that needed to be achieved. It was also the acoustic. Will the new cathedral sound like the old one? That at least is the aim. And Brian Katz is on the line, who's the co-director of the acoustics team who've been working on Notre Dame. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And you never think, or I suppose you do, but one doesn't think of the importance of acoustics in big public buildings and obviously particularly in cathedrals.
Yeah, I mean, I think the acoustics is quite important for any kind of performance space. And obviously, the cathedral has a lot of performance, both religious and secular. But it's also just a sensation of the place that is quite transmitted through the acoustics. You feel kind of the awe of the space when you're there.
And you were involved with Notre Dame before the fire. You knew about that anniversary concert and the extraordinary sound that was created there. To what extent have you been able to recreate it? Will we be able to recreate it with the new cathedral?
Well, what we've done a lot is to recreate virtually what the acoustics is, to kind of test what the proposals are for the restoration to make sure that there's no changes in the acoustics. And so that's what our main goal is. Right now, the building is full of scaffolding, and we're kind of just surveying what's going on with the hopes that once it reopens or starts to reopen, we can get more involved in testing and seeing how it has changed and trying to keep it the way it was before.
And when you talk about it changing, the smallest change, I'm assuming, a bit of carpet here where there wasn't some before, that a window covering, that kind of thing. Is that what we're talking about?
In some sense, there's also just the fact that it's been cleaned to such an extent. And we know from other restoration projects that removing all the dust kind of raises the high frequency reverberation of a space. But there's also a lot of restoration and changes going on in the side areas, such as the carpeting, for example, that we know when it was added in the circulation area to reduce the foot noise of tourists also changed the acoustics. So something like that is what we're paying attention to.
Does the age of it have an impact, which you're going to find difficult to replicate? In other words, I'm thinking of the pews. I'm thinking kind of the physical, particularly the wood. I mean, does that all affect an acoustic? Because you would naturally think that there might be reverberations going on that were not immediately obvious to be picked up to the human ear, but were there.
Probably not so much the aging of material outside of it just becoming dusty, but we know that the pews they're talking about replacing with more of a high-tech pew that may even have some integrated lights and some integrated subtitles. So we're looking at kind of a structure that's quite different from before.
With different materials?
Well, if it has to include kind of electrical components, it won't be the same old straw bamboo probably, but that's kind of a detail that hasn't been resolved yet.
How confident are you you'll manage it, that actually the acoustic will be either the same or better than it was back where we were listening to it there in 2013?
I think since the restoration was pretty honest to the previous state of the building, we're not going to see large changes, architectural changes like changing the shape of the vaults or the materials. Everything is being close to what it was before. It's kind of probably going to be a little more fine-tuning. One of our big issues that we're interested in is historically how the acoustics has changed. And as we look at different kinds of music that were written in Notre-Dame, kind of the choir music or the organ music, we're looking at how the acoustics at those times is different than the acoustics now, and possibly proposing something to the cathedral to allow them to adjust the acoustics to better suit the music or the type of choral performance that was written for.
Is acoustic studies a growing area then? I mean, I suppose we're more able, because of computers, we're more able to do things and notice things and tiny changes that we couldn't in the past. Are we talking here about an area of life that's expanding?
I'm not sure about acoustics expanding, but I think historical acoustics is definitely profiting from computer power. And we can actually simulate and predict acoustics in a much better way than we could 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I started doing this kind of work. The computing power that we have allows us to really create a simulation of Notre-Dame, albeit it takes about a week to run the simulations that we run. It's not the question of 3 or 4 months, which is what it would have been about 10, 20 years ago.
Brian Katz, co-director of the acoustics team working on Notre Dame. Thank you very much.